Before this video disappears into the dark, hit subscribe, leave a comment with your theory, and like the story, because cases like this don't want to be forgotten. Chapter 1. The Last Signal. The call came in at 2:17 a.m., when the city was quiet enough to hear the river breathe. A jogger had found a car abandoned at the edge of Blackwater Bridge, hazard lights blinking like a distress signal that no one answered. The engine was still warm. The driver's door stood open. And on the hood, smeared by a trembling hand, was a single word written in blood. Wait. Detective Mara Ellison arrived before the sun did. The bridge arched over a black ribbon of water that swallowed light, the kind of place locals avoided at night. She stepped under the flashing red-blue glare and felt the familiar tightening in her chest, the instinct that told her this wasn't just another abandoned vehicle. This was an ending pretending to be a beginning. The car belonged to Evan Caldwell, 34, investigative journalist, freelance but stubbornly independent. His byline had appeared everywhere lately, tied to a series on missing persons across 3 states. Young professionals. No criminal records. No obvious connections. Vanished without a trace. Inside the car, Ellison noted the details that would later haunt her. Evan's phone on the passenger seat, battery dead. A leather notebook on the floor, water-stained as if it had been dropped and retrieved. The trunk empty, too clean. There were no skid marks. No signs of a struggle. Just that word, wait, written as a command or a plea. By dawn, divers combed the river. They found nothing. No body. No jacket. No shoes. Evan Caldwell had evaporated. Ellison stood with the river mist curling around her boots and tried to imagine a man choosing this spot to disappear. The bridge wasn't tall enough to guarantee death. It was high enough, though, to suggest intent, or to stage it. By mid-morning, the case exploded. News vans lined the bridge. Social media did what it always did, picked a narrative and ran. Suicide. A dramatic journalist chasing a story too hard. Ellison ignored the noise and went to Evan's apartment. It was immaculate. Not sterile lived in, but carefully ordered, like someone who knew he might not come back. His laptop was gone. His backup drives were gone. The walls were bare except for a corkboard above the desk, pins torn out, outlines of paper ghosts left behind. On the kitchen counter, Ellison found a single mug ring, still wet, coffee cooling in the sink. A man doesn't plan to vanish and leave his coffee unfinished. She met Lena Morales that afternoon. Lena had been Evan's editor once, his friend always. She arrived pale and sleepless, clutching a canvas bag like a shield. She insisted Evan wouldn't have jumped. He was scared, Lena said, voice shaking but certain. But not of himself. He said someone was following him, watching. He told me if anything happened, to give you this. From the bag, she produced a USB drive, unmarked except for a strip of blue tape. Ellison accepted it carefully, like it might burn. Why didn't you come sooner? Ellison asked. Lena swallowed. Because he told me not to. He said if he vanished, I had 48 hours before I trusted anyone. Ellison didn't like the sound of that. She liked it even less when she plugged the drive into a secure terminal and found folders labeled by city. Each folder contained timelines, photos, transcripts. The missing people Evan had been investigating weren't random. They shared locations. Dates overlapped. And in every case, there was a final data point, a phone ping, a credit card swipe, near a stretch of water. Rivers, canals, reservoirs. Not drownings. Disappearances. Ellison called in Detective Aaron Price, a methodical investigator with a memory like a ledger and a skepticism that kept him alive. Together, they mapped the last known movements of the missing. A pattern emerged, subtle but unmistakable. Each person had attended a conference, fundraiser, or public event within 2 weeks of vanishing. Each event had been sponsored by the same umbrella nonprofit, the Meridian Trust. The name meant nothing to Ellison. It shouldn't have meant anything to Evan either. But it did. Price pulled records. Meridian Trust funded community initiatives, tech incubators, mental health outreach. Clean money. Powerful donors. A reputation polished to a mirror shine. The kind of organization that welcomed scrutiny because it had nothing to hide. Or everything, Price said quietly. That evening, as rain stitched the city back together, Ellison's phone buzzed. A blocked number. She hesitated, then answered. Detective Ellison, a man said, voice calm, practiced. You're looking in the wrong direction. She said nothing. Evan Caldwell crossed a line. He misunderstood what he was seeing. You don't have to repeat his mistake. Who is this? Ellison asked. A pause. Then a smile in the voice. Someone trying to help you wait. The line went dead. They pulled Evan's call logs. The last outgoing call, 2:03 a.m., to a number registered to a burner phone. The last incoming call, 2:12 a.m., also a burner. 9 minutes later, the jogger made the discovery. Someone had been with Evan on the bridge. Or someone wanted him to believe they were. Ellison returned to the car impound late that night. Alone. She stared at the word on the hood, photographed and rephotographed, swabbed and catalogued. Wait. The handwriting analysis came back inconclusive. It could be Evan's. It could be someone else's imitating his slant. She opened the leather notebook, found in the car, page by page. Most of it was water-ruined. Ink bled into shadows. But one page had survived, protected by the fold. It contained a list of names, partial, some crossed out. At the bottom, circled twice, was a phrase written heavier than the rest. The signal comes last. Ellison felt the click of recognition. She'd seen this before. Not the phrase, but the structure. A message meant to be found. A breadcrumb designed to survive chaos. Price called her just after midnight. You need to get back here, he said. Now. At the station, he showed her a fresh report. The divers had returned to the river with thermal equipment. They hadn't found a body. They'd found something else, lodged beneath the bridge's maintenance platform. A phone. Not Evan's. This one was powered off, wrapped in plastic, magnetized to the steel like it had been placed there intentionally. For someone to retrieve. Or for someone else to miss. Ellison powered it on. One message sat in the inbox, unsent, time-stamped at 2:16 a.m. If you're reading this, I didn't make it. Meridian isn't what they say. Follow the signal. Don't trust the bridge. The room went silent. Because as the phone connected to the network, a second message arrived. Live, unmistakable, addressed to a number Evan had never owned. Wait. The second message shouldn't have been possible. The phone in Ellison's hand vibrated once, softly, like a pulse. Same word. Same blunt command. Wait. Price stared at the screen. That number isn't registered to anything. No carrier. No billing trail. Ellison didn't respond. She was already thinking about timing. The message arrived the moment the phone reconnected. As if someone had been waiting for that exact second. As if Evan's disappearance wasn't an ending, but a trigger. They isolated the device. Forensics tore into it while Ellison and Price moved fast, faster than protocol liked. If someone was watching, they wouldn't stay quiet for long. By morning, the story shifted. A local station aired leaked footage of the bridge scene. The word on the hood blurred, but unmistakable. Online forums lit up with theories. Suicide cults. Performance art. Government silencing a reporter. Meridian Trust issued a statement by noon, polite, supportive, vague. They denied any connection to Evan Caldwell beyond a rejected grant application 3 years earlier. It was too clean, too fast. Ellison met Lena Morales again, this time at a diner far from the station. Lena looked like she hadn't slept in days, eyes ringed, fingers stained with ink. He was onto something big, Lena said, sliding a folded page across the table. He called it the pattern beneath the water. The page was a hand-drawn map. Rivers traced in blue. Dots clustered along their edges. Dates scribbled near each dot. Ellison felt the chill creep up her spine. The dots matched the missing cases. And then some. There are more, Lena whispered. Unreported. People whose families were told not to push. Evan said the disappearances weren't random. They were tests. Tests for what? Ellison asked. Lena shook her head. He never said. He just kept asking the same question: who decides who gets to vanish? That afternoon, forensics delivered partial results. The phone under the bridge had been activated remotely. The message wasn't typed, it was queued. Scheduled to send the moment the device connected. A dead man switch, but inverted. Not a warning if he survived. A confirmation if he didn't. Ellison traced the phone's components. Cheap. Common. Except for one thing: the magnet casing. Industrial grade. The kind used in infrastructure maintenance. The kind Meridian Trust funded through a subsidiary focused on urban resilience. Price pulled access logs from the bridge's maintenance platform. 2 weeks before Evan vanished, a permit had been issued for inspection. The contractor listed didn't exist. That night, Ellison's apartment felt wrong. Too quiet. She checked the locks twice. Then she noticed the light on her desk blinking. Her laptop, closed, was awake. A message sat on the screen. No sender. No subject. You're close. That's dangerous. Her phone rang immediately after. This isn't how this ends, the same calm voice said. You don't understand what Meridian does. Then explain it, Ellison snapped. A sigh. We keep the system clean. People disappear every day. We decide which disappearances matter. Evan mattered. He interfered. The line went dead. Ellison didn't sleep. By dawn, Price had found something else. Financial records Evan never published. A shell network of donations cycling through Meridian Trust and back out to private security firms, data brokers, and municipal contracts tied to water infrastructure. Surveillance disguised as civic good. They're mapping behavior, Price said. Predicting who will break, who will leak, who will talk. Ellison thought of the missing. Professionals. Insiders. People with access. Targets. They went public anyway. Not fully, but enough. Ellison leaked the existence of the burner phone and the queued message to a trusted reporter. Meridian responded within the hour, accusing the department of compromising an active investigation. Pressure came from above. Ellison was told to stand down. She didn't. That evening, Lena didn't show up for a scheduled call. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Ellison drove to Lena's apartment with Price riding shotgun, both of them silent, braced. The door was unlocked. Inside, the apartment was ransacked, but not violently. Drawers emptied carefully. Papers removed selectively. On the kitchen table sat Lena's canvas bag. Inside it, neatly placed, was Evan's leather notebook. Dry now. Restored pages filled with new notes written in a hand Ellison didn't recognize. At the end, a final entry. They watch the watchers. If you read this, trust the water, not the bridge. A sound came from the bathroom. Water running. They found Lena alive, shaken, wrists red where restraints had been. She told them everything in a rush, men in suits, polite voices, questions about Evan's sources. They didn't hurt her. They just waited. Let fear do the work. They said he chose this, Lena sobbed. They said he wanted to be the signal. Ellison pieced it together too late. Evan hadn't been silenced to stop the story. He'd been turned into part of it. A warning embedded in infrastructure and rumor, designed to draw out anyone who kept digging. Price's phone buzzed. An alert from traffic cameras. A figure on Blackwater Bridge. Standing at the edge. Holding a phone. Ellison ran. By the time they reached the bridge, the figure was gone. But the phone remained, placed carefully on the hood of a different car. This time, the message on the screen wasn't a word. It was a live video feed. Evan Caldwell, breathing, eyes wide, whispering into the camera. I didn't jump, he said. They let me go. The feed cut to black. And beneath it, a new message appeared. Choose. The video couldn't be real. Ellison watched it again, then again, searching for the seams, deep fake artifacts, compression glitches, anything that would let her dismiss what she was seeing. Evan Caldwell's face filled the frame, thinner than before, eyes darting like a hunted animal's, but unmistakably him. I didn't jump, he whispered. They let me go. Let me go. Price stood behind her, arms folded tight, jaw clenched. If he's alive, he said, then everything changes. No, Ellison replied quietly. If he's alive, it means this was always the plan. The phone vibrated once more. A GPS coordinate appeared beneath the frozen video frame. Not the bridge. Somewhere upstream, beyond the city limits, where the river widened and slowed into an industrial basin once used for water treatment. Meridian Trust owned the land now, leased for future development. Ellison knew they were being herded. She also knew they didn't have a choice. They went anyway. The basin was a graveyard of concrete and rust, floodlights humming weakly against the night. Security cameras watched from poles like unblinking eyes. Ellison felt exposed the moment she stepped out of the car. Price stayed close, hand near his weapon, though both of them understood how useless that might be. The phone chimed. Another message. Wait at the water. They followed the path down to the basin's edge. The river lapped softly against the concrete, deceptively calm. A shape moved in the shadows across the water, a small boat easing toward them, motor silent. It stopped 10 feet away. Evan stood up slowly, hands visible, face pale under the floodlights. He looked older, changed. Ellison's breath caught. "Evan," she said, "step away from the boat." He shook his head. "I can't." Price stepped forward. "You're not under arrest. We can protect you." Evan gave a tired smile. "No, you can't. That's the point." He explained it quickly, urgently. Meridian didn't kill threats. They absorbed them, studied them, gave them a choice disguised as mercy. Disappear quietly, or become part of the signal, a living warning embedded in places no one questioned. Bridges, water systems, infrastructure people trusted without thinking. "They let me live because I agreed to vanish," Evan said. "Because fear spreads better when there's uncertainty. Because an unsolved mystery lasts longer than a solved crime." Ellison felt anger rise, sharp and bitter. "You could have come to us." "I did," Evan said softly. "That's why this had to happen." The floodlights flared brighter. A voice echoed from unseen speakers, calm, familiar. "You see now, Detective Ellison." She turned, searching for the source. Cameras swiveled in unison. "We offered him survival," the voice continued. "He offered us credibility. A journalist who disappears chasing the truth becomes the truth." Ellison stepped closer to the water. "You think this ends here?" A pause. Almost amused. "It never ends. That's why it works." The voice addressed Evan next. "It's time." Evan looked at Ellison, eyes shining. "I cued the messages so you'd find the pattern. I needed someone to know. But knowing isn't stopping." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a second phone. He tossed it onto the concrete between them. On the screen, a countdown ticked toward 0. "What's that?" Price demanded. "A release," Evan said. "Everything I found. Names, accounts, proof." Ellison lunged for it. The countdown hit 0. Nothing happened. Evan exhaled, a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. "I wondered if they'd let it go through." The voice returned, colder now. "We told you. The signal comes last." The floodlights cut out. In the darkness, Ellison heard water splash. A boat engine coughed to life, then faded into the distance. When the lights came back, Evan was gone. The river swallowed its secrets without a ripple. They recovered the phone. It was blank, wiped so thoroughly it might as well have never existed. The fallout was swift and brutal. Ellison was removed from the case. Price was reassigned. Meridian Trust announced an internal review and expanded funding for public safety initiatives. The disappearances stopped, or at least they changed. Months passed. The story cooled. Evan Caldwell became a podcast favorite, a forum legend, a cautionary tale. Sightings were reported and debunked. The bridge gained a reputation. People slowed when they crossed it, uneasy without knowing why. Ellison tried to move on. She failed. 3 months later, a body surfaced downstream. A man with no ID, no criminal record, no missing person report. In his pocket, a phone sealed in plastic. One message sat unsent. "Wait." Ellison stood by the river again, older now, harder. She understood the truth at last. They never needed killers. They needed believers. And somewhere beneath the water, The signal was still spreading. If you think this case was intense, the next one will stay with you even longer. Make sure you're here when it surfaces.